So here we are, again, doing another Saltcast commentary track for a Shrewsbury Town game of the past, which there's no commentary for. So yeah, this time we've been taken back, Ollie, to the 12th of February 2008 at the New Meadow under the lights. So not going back too far, Ollie, but were you at this game, my friend?
Yes, I was. Yeah, I remember this one. I got a distinct feeling about how this game went. I'm looking forward to going into it. I remember that MK Dons were a good side at this point.
They certainly were. A good chance there for, I think it was Hibbert right at the start there. We just almost got onto a good cross. But yeah, they certainly were a good team under Paul Ince at this point in time. So a bit of context about this game for those that weren't there or don't remember this season. MK Dons were actually top of the league at this point in time, Ollie, with 62 points from 31 games. Town were not doing quite as well under Gary Peters with in 13th place. With just 39 points from 31 games as well. So we were sitting currently 9 points outside the playoffs, and that's about as good as it got really as the season went on, as we'll probably talk about as we go through. But yeah, I guess that it's one of those games, Ollie, where we're going to watch back, and I think probably a few players here that are probably on your top 20 players of all time. Looking Ben Davis, Ben Hurd, I don't know.
Yeah, it was a good team. Interesting, obviously, in terms of recruitment and who we'd got. But yeah, it was a good team, and it was quite a young team as well when we go through some of the players as the game goes on. It'd be interesting for those people that went to the game and from the younger fans to kind of learn about some of these names that probably know about a few of them. People like Tierney and Davis and Hugh who've gone on to have good careers. It should be good to get through. So maybe worth mentioning who was playing for Shrewsbury this night.
I certainly will, yeah. So Shrewsbury Town's lineup was Glyn Garner in goal, right back Ben Hurd, the centre backs were Kelvin Langmead and Colin Murdoch. First time we've seen Colin Murdoch in one of these games looking back, so it'll be interesting to see him play. Left back was Mark Tierney, right wing Ben Davis, and then central midfield was Asapal and Kevin McIntyre, with Mark Pugh playing left wing, who I'm looking forward to watching as well. And then up front was Dave Hibbert and James Constable, who has a big impact on this game, but we won't give it away yet, Ollie. It's worth watching right through this one. We'll go through the subs as they come on, Ollie, but just to give the MK Dons team, in case anything, before anything happens in this game, they had Willie Garrett in goal, Sean Hanlon and Darissa Diallo, I think his name was, at centre back, Danny Swales right back, Dean Lewington, who seems to have played against us hundreds of times at left back, and then Jermal Johnson, Keith Andrews, Alan Navarro and Mark Wright, who eventually ended up at our football club, as the midfield. And then up front they had Kevin Gallen, obviously ex-QPR striker, and Lloyd Dyer. So a very strong team, and a lot of names there you recognise and went on to do well, Ollie, as we'll talk about, and you can see why they were probably top of the league.
Yeah, really good team, good attacking football, and yeah, Ince was, at this point, he was seen as a potential Man United manager. His stock was high. At this point, he was seen as I think it was good as well from an ethnicity point of view. A black manager getting a job and doing really well. That was really good to see. And yeah, you thought that you would be surprised. If you asked us this question, then you'd expect that he would have managed in the Premier League and really had a career, because he really turned this team round, because they came down, didn't they?
Yeah, so previous season they'd been relegated, Ollie, and then we're back in League Two. But yeah, it is an interesting story, the Paul Ince story, because we'll just touch on that now, because obviously he had a great time of it at this club just for this one season. Obviously took them up as champions, but also this season they won the auto windscreens or whatever it's called nowadays, the LDV Vans Trophy, the Football League Trophy. So he won 2 cups in one season with MK Dons, and then obviously went off to Blackburn in the summer, got his crack at the Premiership, didn't he? But that was as good as it got, really, because after that it went pretty downhill, didn't it? And he ended up back at MK Dons, if you remember, Ollie.
Yeah, I've just had a memory now, actually. I think this game, I was late. I was playing in a 5-a-side league.
Oh, right.
Which actually, I won. We won the league. Oh, good shot, good save there. Was that from Mark Wright, a shot there? I think I was actually late for this game, and I ran basically a full mile down the Otley Road, and I was sitting in this game in a T-shirt, so hot, and I can remember now because it was absolutely freezing. You can see the players' breaths. So that was my intro to the game. I just played 5-a-side football and then had to run for a mile chasing, getting over from Burton-on-Trent was at Molson Coors. It's funny how that memory's just come back just now.
Yeah, there you go. We've all done it, Ollie. We've all been late, and I don't think if you were that too late, I don't think there's too many early goals in this game from what I can remember. But I don't think you missed anything. But it definitely was cold. Yeah, middle of February, wasn't it? And certainly not a warm night in the meadow. If you look in the crowd now, Ollie, and you can sort of see the crowd in the background, there's a lot of very thick coats and gloves by the look of it. So,
nice blue seats as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because we talk about the context of MK Dons there really a little bit, and we'll probably touch on quite how good they were a little bit later on. In terms of how well they went to do. But Town were on a poor run before this game, and playing the league leaders was really seen as a bit of a problem for us at this point in time, because we'd not won in 4 and we'd only won 1 in 9, and it was really starting to put the pressure on Gary Peters. And I say we were still 13th in the league, but we'd really dropped off the playoffs during that run. And there was agitation from the fans, I can remember at the time. I'd be interested to listen. We're obviously listening to the sort of crowd reactions as well, particularly when it goes to some of the scores later on, to see whether the agitation comes across in the crowd, because I can't quite remember. It's quite a while ago, Ollie, but certainly wouldn't have been a great game for us to face in that kind of run, would it?
No, top of the team at home on a Tuesday night. No, pitch is looking good though, so the pitch was superb, wasn't it, when we first moved into the new meadow?
Certainly was, yeah. I say we're still readjusting to new surroundings, aren't we? So this is I did my research, but this is the first season at the new meadow, isn't it? So we're obviously got to February and probably starting to settle down, but we've done better at the new meadow compared to probably our form at the game meadow in the latter years, but this first season was definitely an adjustment period, wasn't it? The results were not quite as good as we probably would have hoped over the course of that season.
This is my first season as season ticket holder.
Yes.
In Block 17, but I was just before. So at this point in this game, I've been sitting just below you, Glenn, and then I moved back to where I am now.
Move back to keep an eye on me. There we go. But an interesting opening 6 minutes. I think both teams have had a couple of attacks.
End to end.
Town have had 2 corners, which is good, and we'll just watch this next one through. But exactly. I'd say Town weren't in great form, but Emkidons came into this flying as well. They've been top of the league since September, and obviously this is February, and they never went down below first place for the rest of the season. So it was certainly a team going places, and very interesting game to have come as a result of a combination of those factors. Really, I'm just looking at the lineup, Ollie. I'm not too sure whether Ben Davies is playing out wide in this. We'll have to keep an eye on that, because it seems to be quite central.
He's been wide right once. We seem to in this 4-4-2, in all the games we've seen, the teams have been quite fluid, so it'd be interesting to see. Whereas he's on the right wing there, doing an overlap from Hibbert.
Yeah, and Pugh's definitely left wing, so we did get that right. You can see Mark Pugh there. And we briefly touched on Mark Pugh on a recent podcast, didn't we? And I'm quite interested to see how he plays in this game, because you've often talked about him being one of the ones that sort of got away a little bit, and there was obviously a player there and it never quite come through. So it'd be interesting to see him in this game, won't it?
Yeah, it would be good to see how he does. And for those who listened to these, we always do a little bit of info on each player, so maybe worth sharing doing the Mark Pugh piece. So Mark Pugh. It's fair to say, actually, I'll do the funny stuff first. He is probably it's a niche category, Glenn, but I would say he's the best chef footballer on Instagram. Have you ever seen what he does?
No, I don't follow him. I don't have Instagram, Ollie.
He's amazing. He's an amazing chef. Some of the stuff he puts on there, from peanut butter kind of like flapjack type things to salmon and all sorts of things. Yeah, he's an amazing chef. He's got quite a lot of followers on there as well. So worth having a look. And I think we always talk about on this podcast when we sign players, we talk about number of games, and he's played 460 games to date. So that's not a bad number.
It's decent.
He started his career at the Burnley youth system. He's played for 9 clubs year to date. And his most he played was 274 for Bournemouth. And he's played, and I always thought he had someone who had potential. I can remember him doing a Cruyff turn on Mark, just out of that corner. Oh, good save. On Mecca Richards in a Man City pre-season friendly. And he went on to play 67 games in the Premier League, scoring 5 goals. And for me, he's definitely a player with potential, and one that got away from us, I think.
Yeah, he wasn't really, really young when he was with us, was he? He must have been, I don't know.
He was 21 20s. When he was in this 21. In 2008, he was 21.
Yeah, maybe he was younger than I remember then, yeah.
It must have been Simpson that never really played him, but obviously Peters rated him.
Yeah, Peters gave him a fair crack, didn't he? And he did, have the occasional game, a little bit like most Shrewsbury Town wingers, as I've said before, that he was good in some games and not in the others. Quite similar to a Sean Whalley, I suppose, but just didn't hang around quite as long. Maybe that's unfair on Sean Whalley. But
it's funny, he went to Hereford after us and then went to Bournemouth, who were in League One at the time, and then his career just obviously accelerated. And he was key for Bournemouth when they got promoted from the Championship.
He
they signed loads and loads of players. Yeah, he was one of the main ones.
He's one of the. I think I've done some statistics looking at it over the years, but there's about 36 players who've played for Shrewsbury and then gone on to play Premier League football, and obviously he's one of them. But he's in the upper reaches of players that have played the most amount of games, if you will. So in terms of players that went on from our football club and did really well, he's kind of up there, strangely enough. But it's quite
there's the
odd story.
Well, it's funny. This is a Premier League left flank for us here with Mark Tierney.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's on that list. Yeah, it's funny, and we talk about Gary Peters, and we'll really touch on that because the story of the season's interesting, and this isn't too many games before Peters gets sacked, but we'll get to that later on. But we were talking before we recorded this for the club, weren't we, Ollie, and talking about how we talk about the players here, and some of them moved on quicker than others, but Gary Peters was able to get in players who clearly had quality to go on and do well, didn't he?
Yeah, I think if you were to opportunity here through one goal.
Oh, it's a good save by Glenn Garner. That
good save from Glenn.
Yes.
From Glenn. Yeah, good through ball as well. Yeah, he signed a lot of good players. Yeah, so he signed obviously James Constable from non-league here, Hibbert, Pugh. You got Asa Hall in. We've got Ben Davies, obviously, he's a good player as well. Mark Tierney kind of took from Oldham. Ben Hurd was only 23. And Kelvin Langmead was 23 as well. So yeah, he really was a really, really good recruitment. And something I put on Twitter this afternoon, something what we were discussing earlier, is that I think in today's game where recruitment has a lot more resources put at it, and you have a bit more structure, I think he would make an absolute superb head of talent and recruitment. Someone who's going to kind of drive your strategy and have a long-term plan. In terms of tactics and style of football. It's funny actually, the team he's got here, Ben Davies, Mark Pugh, Tierney, you've got some really, really good technical players in this team.
Yep.
And then to play the football style he did, which was one of the big sticks that the fans beat him with, and for me, just maybe suggests that, in today's game, if he was retiring now, I think he would become an excellent head of talent recruitment.
Yeah, I think, didn't he? I think he ended up at Hereford at one point, I'm sure of it. And he did some scouting, but there was always this talk about Gary Peters being independently wealthy, and it lingered around for years that he'd done something with property, and that at some point he was going to invest in Shrewsbury Town Football Club and come back and do something amazing. And I think maybe that might have been a rumour. I don't really know of it, but yeah, I think we could touch on his legacy as this game goes on a little bit more, and quite why the football under Peters evolved in the way it did, I suppose, across the 3 years. And as we say, this is towards the end of it now. Almost everybody playing tonight. I can't think anyone was here before Gary Peters started. Obviously, he brought in the likes of Ben Hurd as well, didn't he? Back at the start of his reign, Langmead he brought in as well.
Converted him to a central defender as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that most of the players, if not all of them, were Gary Peters buys, and this was his team then. But as I say, it really hadn't been going well this season, and particularly away from home, the form had been pretty poor, Ollie, and that was one of the reasons why we'd started to slip away. And yeah, it's good things.
You can see why MK Dons were good. This is the way MK Dons are playing. They were not a typical League Two side, were they?
Oh, Glengarner. It's done all right there in the end.
Oh, he just about get away with that one. But yeah,
they've turned the screw.
They're playing well, aren't they? You can see that they're confident and they're passing the ball well, and they're very, very keen to get forward quickly and playing lots of triangles and lots of movement. They're obviously as the league table suggests at the end of the year, you can see they're a good side.
Yeah,
and not confident to throw a few men forward either.
No, and I guess you wouldn't. They were pretty far ahead at this point in time. I think they had a 4 or 5 point cushion. So, at that stage in February, you can pretty much have a go at any team then, can't you? With the fair degree of relying upon the abilities that you've got there. That was a bit of classic Dave Hibbert work there. Come well over halfway line, win a free kick, just relieve the pressure. I remember being that one of his main skills that he would bring to the team. But yeah, they had some interesting players, Ollie, in their team. I mean, Dean Lewington, I mentioned him before. He always stands out for me because he is, Mr. MK Dons, isn't he? And there he is on the screen now, and we just saw him sort of bomb forward a minute ago. But he's always been a constant thorn in our sides, hasn't he? And obviously he was the one that left Wimbledon and moved to Milton Keynes when they set up in 2004, and has never left. He's been there for 652 games as it stands, Ollie, which is, frankly, in modern football, that's crazy.
That is quite crazy. He obviously loves a roundabout.
He obviously loves franchise football.
Cynical.
There we go.
That was cynical. That's got to be a yellow card. Yeah, classic yellow. He's claiming it was his first one, but I don't think the referee's going to have any of it. Who was the ref?
It was some guy called Ian Williamson, I think. I looked up. I had no interesting stories about him for this commentary.
He hasn't got any baggage as far as it goes.
He wasn't involved in any controversies with anybody, not even some of the more controversial managers. But that's a shame. So yeah, he didn't stir any passions with football fans. So I'm assuming he had a pretty good game. But here we come again.
Talking
Mark Wright is
feathers ruffled.
And
there was a few changes off the pitch, wasn't there, with Shrewsbury Town?
Yeah, interesting that. Yeah, it was sort of like the start of the Bickerton era, if you will.
Remember, we are on the club channel, so let's be careful.
It's just we're just giving that context, aren't we? Yeah, exactly. But everyone will remember the different CEOs we've had and different managers and different setups behind the football club we've had. Let's just look at this first. Oh, that's a good chance from MK Dons.
That was a foul. That was.
Yeah, you reckon? Glengana wasn't moving. Slightly concerning. But yeah, so Rob Bickerton had joined about a week or two before this game and was just starting to sort of come into the club and maybe ruffle feathers is a bit unfair, but Steve Wellbeloved, who a few Town fans will remember, and I met him a few times, a really nice bloke, he left shortly after. And then John Harris, who's again someone I know personally from playing football against him at the Power League a lot. He joined as general manager. So it was a different setup really. We had sort of Rob and then John in a sort of two-man role really, kind of covering I suppose the jobs that Brian and Jane do now, I suppose, in some respects. So a slightly different setup. But yeah, Rob Bickerton's era was quite short, wasn't it, in respect? Yeah. And I'm not sure what it brought other than a lot of A-line kits we couldn't shift.
Yeah, I do like when Coca-Cola did their advertising these years, where we had your team colours in their brand logo. I thought it was looked quite good. I
like that as well. Yeah, it was really good to be fair, and it definitely was when you went away from home because you always kind of saw their colours on the thing as well. There,
I remember Dagenham from that game we did.
Yeah, because they did it the season before as well, didn't they? Because I remember that being around the playoff final, the first one when we went to Peters.
Is that a yellow card? You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Bit late.
You went in there, no attempt to really win the ball. Shrewsbury Town do some. Tierney getting involved. You don't mess with Mark Tierney.
He had a temper, didn't he, Tierney? He'd stand up for his mates. That was one thing I quite liked about him. He always kind of smashed into protecting his friends.
After a player that's going to
gets the crowd going.
Oh, this winds me up. This does when players do this. I think they can run away. And fair play to the referee. He hasn't. Don't say he's going to book both of them. It's a cop out.
I don't think he's going to book Tierney, is he? He didn't really do one match. I think he's going to let them both off, Ollie. I haven't looked at the bookings in this game. There are a few, but
I think the handbags has
there we go.
Allowed the player to get away with it. Oh no, he's still. It's a good ref. This is a good lad. I like him.
That's what I mean. That's why he hasn't caused any trouble to get any news stories about him. He just played. He booked the original challenge. That's fine.
Yeah.
Good referee.
Yeah, good referee in that.
God, it must have been really cold. There's a lot of steam coming off him.
Yeah. God, I love it when you get a player with no hair and it comes off their head. I'm not sure this is HD, so I'm not sure we'll see that.
No, but we've not obviously created as much as they have so far, and we've probably been struggling to get in since we last we talked about 10 minutes about how the game was flowing, and I think this last 8 minutes has definitely been mostly MK Dons. So I think Gary would have been sort of worrying about really where this game was going already, I would imagine.
Oof.
Scrappy,
a bit wayward.
Very scrappy, isn't it?
Very scrappy. Yeah, this is probably in our favour, to be honest.
Yeah, it just stops them getting the momentum.
This is terrible. this could be a clip that's used on that 90s football thing. Obviously, this isn't the 90s, but you know what I mean.
No, exactly. That was a fairly scrappy flick. That was, like you would say, that was classic League 2 football, wouldn't you? Really, even the team against top of the league will be bragged down to that. That's a great ball.
It's poor not.
Yeah,
I'm not feeling Glengana in trousers. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, he used to wear them quite a lot, didn't he, Glengana? I think if you asked me about keepers who wore trousers more often than not, Glengana would definitely be on my list, but maybe I had bad circulation on it. What do we know? I should just talk about attendance. It does look full, clearly. It never was when we first moved out of that stadium, although attendances did go up from the game edit, didn't they? But yeah, Tuesday night game in February, we had 5,474 there, with about, I think it was a couple of hundred from MK Dons, so, not the worst attendance, I suppose, for a Tuesday night game against the league leaders.
Yeah, no, it's a good attendance, and it was. I think, it's just moving to the Meadow was just such a big move from attendances. Obviously, it's took us into another level, and that's what Gary Peters did, didn't he? That's one of the legacy he left. He left us with good proper players, and really help kind of set the foundations for where we are now. You could chart it back to those days, I think.
I'm led to believe a lot of the things that were set up on the footballing side at the football club when we first moved there that season, in terms of which bench to use, obviously had to set the pitch up, any manager would do that, but a lot of things in terms of how the gym was set up and different things, and Peter's had a massive say about all that sort of thing, and everyone, when you talk about Gary Peters, the bloke lived and slept football. He slept at the football stadium. You look at that block at the back of the South Stand, an element of that was built just for Gary Peters to be able to kind of put his head down and sleep there at night when he was kind of engrossed in being a football manager. And that was one thing, you hear about people working really hard, but with all the managers maybe since then, they've all had their efforts and they've worked really hard, but Peter seemed to be addicted to football, didn't he?
Yeah, he was very accessible to the media as well.
He was.
He would take calls whenever. Was happy to chat and share. Sounds like a good bloke. Would be an interesting guy to get on the podcast if that was ever possible.
It's funny. I've met every manager since Peters, obviously Simpson and all the ones since really, but I never ever met Gary Peters. You never came to any, obviously other than Q&As that he did and stuff like that. But I never had a sort of sit down chance to chat to them for the fanzine or the podcast or other things we were doing for the Supporters Parliament. So it's interesting. I don't know him personally, but he came out, stepped out, didn't he? I should just say, actually, talking about how cold it was, Ollie, interestingly, the next game was on the Saturday, so this was the Tuesday night, and it was up at Morecambe, and a lot of Town fans will remember this day because we all travelled up to Morecambe, ready for another Shrewsbury Town game, and the game got called off really late. It got called off at 2:20, even though one entire goalmouth was covered in ice, and when the referee went out to check it at 2 o'clock or something, I was reading the programme and Gary Peters was talking about how the referee went out to check if it was icy and he just fell over, it was so icy, and they still didn't call it off to 2:20. But I remember going up that day, and I'm sure a lot of Town fans will, and we got to the ground and we were basically ready to go in, and also sort of in the pubs locally, and they were like, nah, game off, mate, you've got to go. So this obviously was during a very cold snap, Ollie. I don't know, did you go to Morecambe that day?
I can't, no, I think you'd remember.
You remember that?
Yeah, I didn't go to that one.
Yeah, you would do indeed.
Why wouldn't I have done though? Because my mate would have been living up in Lancaster at that point. Maybe I actually went up the whole weekend and I was there anyway.
It
and
wouldn't have
just carried on drinking. Yeah, one of my best mates would have been still living in Lancaster, so I would have assumed I would have gone. So I went to uni there too.
Yeah, there's not been that many games.
No uni there, but Lancaster.
No, you went to Lancaster, didn't you? It's interesting because there's not been that many games where I've physically got to a game and it's been called off late on. I remember Carlisle in the LDV trophy a few years ago. It might have been a league game, I can't remember, on a Tuesday night, and I remember going to Barnet when the power cut happened and everything that happened that day. So it's quite a rare occurrence to get to a football ground and have it called off. And they kind of do stick in your mind. Although I'm sure I've missed a couple, but that's interesting. I was just going to run through there, Ollie, as we're 20 minutes in, and it's been MK Dons have shaded this first 20 minutes for sure, but it's been
they haven't
competitive.
been that good for the last 10, have they?
No,
it's kind of like a 20 minutes of two halves. They started really well, and now we've kind of ruffled them. They're not playing as well as you'd expect.
Yeah, but that's what Peters would do. He'd have his teams unsettle other teams, wouldn't he, and take them out their stride. That was part of the game plan, wasn't it, under Gary Peters? And you talk about the style of it, but that was definitely part of it. But yeah, should just talk about players who were missing from the squad, and really players who were missing for a fair bit of time across the season, and maybe a part of the reason why we weren't doing so well. But we were missing Andy Cook up front. He'd played a few games, he got an injury, then he had another injury, and this time he was out for some fluid on the knee, so it was only a short-term injury, this one. But when you look at who were playing up front and how many goals they scored, David Burt hung around a long time, but he was never that reliable a scorer. And obviously James Constable does well in this game, but maybe could have given us more of that time. So Andy Cook would have been a big miss for this team, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would. He would have been a big miss. But I guess that's probably where one of our biggest weaknesses in this team, I'd say, strikers.
Yes.
Strikers was definitely something that was lacking in this side. He did alright, David, but scored. Played quite a few games. Played 104 games for us, and scored 29 goals in that period. One of those players again, which we've talked about on these podcasts, where after playing for Shrewsbury, his career doesn't go up. It's quite unique in this team. Actually, there's a lot of players in this squad that their careers went up after us. Went to Posh on a 3-year deal, never really worked, and then slid down to non-league, playing for Telford on the way down.
As they all do, Ollie. As they all do. We did discuss him on a recent podcast, and we had my say on how I always thought he was sort of, that second string striker, but sometimes, he was the first string striker at Shrewsbury Town, and he never quite seemed to fulfil that role. But, good enough. Not one of those strikers I would be overly critical about looking back now. So, interesting, and we'll see how he does in this game. Just to say, the other players out, Ollie, was Darren Moss, who seems to have been at Shrewsbury Town all during this era we keep covering, but he was out with a bruised ankle because someone clogged him in training the day before. So, always great when a right back gets injured. Yeah, maybe it was. Yeah, I think Hurd was I looked at the stats. Hurd was the regular right back this season, so I don't think he would have been playing, but he probably would have been on the bench. And then at this point in time, Peters was obviously trying to reshape the squad. The January transfer window had just finished, and we'll probably talk about some of the players he brought in. But he'd sent Neil Ashton out on loan, sent Luke Jones out on loan, and he'd also sent Michael Symes out on loan, which at the time I remember being quite an interesting one because people rated Symes. He never scored all that many, but he was talented and tricky and was something we didn't have in all the other strikers.
Yeah, one of the players we thought had potential but could never really fulfil it.
No.
Murdoch again in there. He's really fast and he gets good in tackle. Murdoch. Twice now he's got in front of the man and read the game really well.
Yeah, his legs used to go. That was the problem. He was fairly old at this point in time, but he was solid until they went, as far as I can remember. But yeah, so Symes was out on loan, and then this is Colin Murdoch's first game for quite some time because the partnership had been Kelvin Langmead and Darren Kempson, who some fans will have some cold rushes of blood through them thinking about him. But yeah, I've just put on the agenda he's been dropped for being total and then a swear word. No,
that's not
never.
A foul. He won the ball there, clearly. It's been a scrappy 25 now.
Yeah. But this would have been fine for us, wouldn't it, playing the team leaders?
Yeah.
McIntyre's breaking a lot up. He's being really scrappy and
but that wasn't a foul. You won the ball. That was unfortunate. What did you think of this kit? Well, this free kick's been taken this year.
I didn't like it. I didn't like this kit at all. I didn't like the white in it. Not enough amber.
White ain't a problem for me, but just not a good design.
No stripes. You know me.
Too blue.
If it's not no amber and no stripes, it's not gonna be a kit I remember.
Scrappy.
Yeah.
Get it out, lads.
But it is an incredibly scrappy game so far. But that would have been fine. We'd have probably been okay with this so far. I think at the point in time where the league was and everything, we would have been quite happy with the point. So, I looked at the tables and stuff, and I think our playoff dreams had probably gone by this point in time. I don't think maybe anyone believed it, players or fans. But a point here against league leaders probably would have been okay, wouldn't it? So there wouldn't have been any major ructions. I've not heard the crowd getting too anxious yet. So clearly that. Yeah, it's good to hear a crowd, isn't it? Obviously, we're doing this in lockdown, and you kind of do miss that. Listening to a football. Yeah, it doesn't happen even with the games you're watching with no crowd, and let alone being a part of it and singing as well. So I'll bring it back as soon as possible. Should just say on the bench, and there will be some subs later. Chris Humphries is on the bench. So's Guy Maggio, which will be an interesting discussion when he comes on. David Hunt, and then the two unused subs. The two unused subs were James Meredith and Scott Bevan, the goalkeeper. Dave Hunt went on to do really well for Brentford, didn't he? He had a decent career after us. But so that was it, really. So that's kind of
showing his trickery. Oh, he's done him. He's made a mug of him. Is he going to get the ball in the box? Not bad.
No. Headed away. We're unlucky. Nice little try to flick it across the top. Yeah, it feels like it's just one pass away, isn't it? A little bit sometimes on the edge of the box there. And Asa Hall was always good at that. I thought he would get up and join in with the attacks. I always said Asa. I don't know why, but he always got up there. To be fair, and he scored a lot of goals from the edge of the box, didn't he? He went through a period I remember where he scored like 3 long-range goals in like 3 or 4 games, sort of thing. So he had a fairly good strike on him. So Peters would always want to have sort of rolled him up there, wouldn't he? But I think he was one of those players we had on loan like twice, maybe 3 times. I think he came back. It might just be twice, but he clearly liked playing for Shrewsbury Town every now and again. So
he played for Shrewsbury twice, and he played for Oxford
that was it twice.
He played for 11 teams in total, 6 on loan. Probably his best spell was probably Luton, where he played 74 games. Oxford he played 75 games, played 348 games in total. Oh, just wide. Good effort.
Great effort.
Town have turned this game round, haven't they? After they started so comfortably passing the ball around, making triangles, we scrapped our way back into this.
Scrapped away, unsettled them, and then started to get the 2 wingers involved. You have Pugh trying to get it in a minute ago with a bit of trickery, and then that was
Davis, you can see, is definitely playing on the right flank, isn't he?
Yeah, and we should say, he is playing there, and we should just say Ben Davis was our captain at this point, Ollie. Which I don't know, it was an interesting one when he got named captain.
27 at the start in 2008.
He was, but it's always an interesting one because you generally think of your captains being either your sort of central midfield general or an experienced centre back or a wily striker, and I don't know what it was about Ben Davies. I think it was the way he spoke, because he was a very, very softly spoken man. Do you remember? Kind of had quite a high pitched voice, and something about that sometimes didn't seem like it made the right material for a captain. Anyway, I went to I think it was maybe 3 or 4 games before this. I did a thing for Sky, which I've mentioned on the podcast before, called My Big League Weekend, and they followed me around for the day, followed the away supporters play football, and then had a camera on me at the game. At the end, they said, "Can you go over and do an interview?" And for some reason, Peters didn't want to come out, but to be fair to Ben Davies, he came out and I did an interview with him, and he actually, even though he was softly spoken, you could see a steel behind his eyes, and he knew his football, and he really knew. I think we'd drawn 1-1 at home, or it was a draw. But he knew the reasons what had happened, and he was very clear about what happened. And like, we listen to interviews on the radio a lot of the time, and you don't see the person at the same time. Whereas standing in front of him, you could kind of tell that this bloke knew his football. So I kind of changed my mind after that, Ollie. That's my Ben Davies recollections.
Do you think he'll? Because what's he doing now? Is he a coach? He's a coach at Grimsby, isn't he?
Is he? I don't know. To be honest, yeah.
He's a coach at Grimsby, first team coach at Grimsby. So you never know. He might have him back as a manager one day.
Well, the last person to come from Grimsby did pretty well, didn't he? So, you never know. A certain Paul Hurst. Oh, there we go. So, that's the teams, really, I suppose. I should just say as well that he doesn't come on, but on the bench for them is another town player who played for us in the future, Carl Regan, but he doesn't get on in this game. But one player, obviously, for MK Dons that did play for us is Mark Wright, and I'd say he hasn't been in the game quite as much as, say, our 2 wingers so far.
No, he hasn't.
He's been a bit spell.
He's been a bit of a passenger, to be honest. There he is playing on the left wing.
And it's interesting that he hasn't...
distinctive running style.
Yeah. It's interesting that he hasn't had too much of the ball, because this was probably one of Mark Wright's best seasons, Ollie. Let's just see if we get rid of this before I talk about it. Yeah, good job, Kelvin. So, giving a corner away, but that's fine. I should just say this is probably one of his best seasons, because he was 25 years old, sort of maybe peak of a career for a winger, and he was absolutely flying. He ended the season, this league-winning season for MK Dons, as their top goal scorer with 13 goals from right wing. Reading through, a lot of those goals were match-winning goals, Ollie. So, clearly a massive influence for them. It was 3 more years until he came to town after that. And basically, when he joined us 3 years later, he started to do the same thing, didn't he, really, in terms of getting goals.
Clearance.
So, it was clear off the line, really. Oh,
that was a good shot.
I don't think Ghana would have seen that. Yeah.
Through traffic, hard one for the keeper to defend. So, knocked back, recycled, and players in confidence, and smashed it into the back of the net. Good strike. Could you criticise the team for not defending that one, or do you think it's a bit hard? I think it's hard on them
when you clear something out to the edge of the box. You've at least got it out of the box, and if it comes back in first time, to me those ones are a bit hard to blame the defence. But it's gone through a load of legs, and it's gone in. But we're talking about Mark Wright when we had that big discussion. It was Mark Wright that just scored that. A pretty classic Mark Wright goal, I suppose. He did have a good finish, and if you get it on target, you've got a chance, haven't you? But I couldn't be too harsh on Glengana there, because it's come through absolutely everybody. So not ideal. There's a high foot there on who was that, McIntyre? Free kick, Town. So 1-0 down after what's the clock saying? 32. Yeah, it was 32 minutes. I'm looking at the stats as well. So the Shrewsbury Town clock is right this time. Some of the commentaries you've done before, it's been a bit wonky, Ollie. But so there we go. So we did the Mark Wright stuff, and as I say, this is the reason he ended up top goal scorer was because of things like that, I would imagine. And interesting though, for all he did for MK Dons and trophies he won and games he won and promotion, he actually played more games for us than he did Milton Keynes Dons in the end. So. Probably remembered as a Shrewsbury Town player maybe more than MK Dons. I don't know. I'm not sure whether that's fair or not. But he did play more games for us. Oh, keeper done all right there with the hanging ball. It's always dangerous. Oh, there we go. We should just give some more context to this game. That this is the season after a certain playoff game, Ollie, against MK Dons. So there was a lot of still that sort of hatred of the franchise. I remember it being a big thing about amongst Shrewsbury Town fans, but obviously they'd beaten us earlier in the season, Ollie, at their place 3-0, so we were kind of looking to not let them do the double over us after what happened in the playoffs, and us having sort of the sort of ability to be the ones crowing about their form a bit more. But this game could have gone that way.
Banter between us and their fans, the small number that they had at this point about those games, isn't there? It did create a bit of an edge between the two sets of fans.
It definitely did. I didn't like it, Ollie. We've talked about this on the podcast before, but I went to the very first AFC Wimbledon game, when they played at Kingstonian as the game before they started in whatever low league division it was, and they asked for fans of all clubs to go down there, and I was firmly behind the MK. Oh, what a shot that is. That was Mark Wright again.
That's a great effort.
Or was it Lloyd Dyer? Oh, no.
Follow up.
Scrappy.
You can hear the shouting. You can hear the
it's
boos,
got a bit
you
tense
can hear
now.
the anger in the West Stand.
Yeah,
That was a good
quite
goal
strong.
again, to be fair. To be fair to Peters, that was another good goal. Really good first time strike. Yes, okay, Shrews a little bit slow to react, but another shot of a high quality. Hibbert's not happy.
Frustrated. Yeah, he's trying to get him going. I can hear
He
people
wants
from
his
the
goal
West Ham
bonus.
shouting. They'll be coming in a minute. 2 good strikes there. The one that hit the post and then the one back in there. That's fair enough, isn't it? But yeah, you can see the tension when a player does that, like Hibbert. He's clearly, he knows the situation they're in and the form they've been in, and not a great thing to go 2-0 down after 34 minutes, is it? And you would have thought that heads would be a bit sort of rocked by those 2 goals quickly, but yeah, we'll have to see how they approach the last sort of 10 minutes of this half, because it's going to be big, but not good, Ollie, is that goal. I'm not sure what you could blame on that one too much. I think the defence were, again, just trying to scrap it clear like they have been doing.
But imagine how I felt. So I chased my way, raced from Burton-on-Trent to get to Shrewsbury. I'd ran a mile down the Otley Road. I'd now got my coat on, and now it's 2-0, and I'm wondering, what am I doing here?
Yes. Well, worse was to come, wasn't it? I mean, they're picking us apart now. They should go 3-0 up there. Garner's made a save off his knee. Not the most orthodox of saves. They are
a bit desperate
all over us. And we should just point out, like I just briefly talked to Ollie about their front 2 and how good they were, but you've got Kevin Gallen playing up front, ex-Premier League striker for QPR, obviously in his fading years, but still probably way too good for League 2. And then Lloyd Dyer, who obviously moved on to Leicester after MK Dons and was part of the team that got them all the way from the League 1 to the Premiership. And actually, I didn't realise this, but it was his goal, Lloyd Dyer, that got Leicester their promotion to the Premiership. He scored the winning goal to get them up in 2013-2014. So yeah, where would Leicester be without that Lloyd Dyer goal, do you reckon, Ollie?
Good goal.
Yeah, I don't know where they'd be. I was just watching it settle down there. Yeah, because, if they never got to the Premiership, would they have ever won the Premiership? It would be difficult to tell. But, yeah, he never got to play in the Premiership. He left soon after. So, a very talented front 2 and quite busy and workmanlike and hard-working, but also with a fair bit of pace and skill. So, difficult for Murdoch and Langmead to deal with those 2. 2-0 to the franchise boys, I can hear, Ollie. That's not nice to hear, is it? God, that would have been
quite new at this point when they'd moved.
Yeah,
we're not saying the town animosity was not really for me necessarily about the franchise point. It was the playoff, and the playoff and that game had kind of given us a bit of a rivalry. Short-lived, I'd say. But I think the playoff game and stuff did. I remember it quite clearly. Well, I personally remember quite a bit of banter between friends.
It's interesting. Obviously, I was one of the editors of the fanzine at the time, so I've got issue 14 and 15, which sort of bookend this game. And there is an article in one of them about franchise football and how, I think, I can't remember who wrote it now, but it's almost like I still can't get over that this has happened to Wimbledon sort of thing, and it was rough what happened to them. So I think, yeah, you're right, the rivalry came at the time of all of that, and it culminated in one big sort of mini rivalry at the time. But I think for a lot of people, still now, the franchise thing is still there. We go to MK Dons now in their new stadium, and they've been established 16, 17 years, whatever it is now, since 2004. So yeah, but there's still the franchise chant every time we go there, and it's still a thing that people bring up, and it's never going to leave that football club, is it? No. Not
for a long time.
It'll not leave till Dean Lewington leaves. There we go. So interesting. We should just talk about really a bit of the where we're at with Gary Peters at this point in time, because we've talked about how poor our form was, and it's just worth pointing out, Ollie, how close this is to the end of Gary Peters' reign, because obviously we talked about us being 13th and slowly drifting away, and we won't see what the score was in this yet, because we'll leave it to the end, but the next few games were not great for us, Ollie. We went to Hereford. We played Hereford next at home, which was a game we were expected to win, or at least compete in, because of it being Hereford, and we lost 2-1 at home. Next game we played was away at Barnet, which is a game I went to, and I remember quite vividly, where we lost 4-1, and Gary turned around after that. I think on the Monday, we expected him to get sacked on the Saturday night or the Sunday, but on the Monday he handed in his resignation, and they accepted it with reading the articles with some sadness, because we certainly weren't in danger of getting relegated still at that point in time, Ollie. But he just must have felt like it was the right time to go. What a hit that is! Oh,
Ooh,
great save.
Good save. Follow
up again. Oh, that's unfortunate.
The
big
boos.
boos.
The big boos. Lots of arm gestures.
Oh no. They've been clinical, haven't they?
Yeah, they
Fair
have.
play to them.
Players full of confidence.
Yeah. Easy.
Oh no, easy.
Oh,
That's not.
God.
It's a terrible chant to hear as an opposition fan.
I mean, sitting there that night, I'm almost certain my viewpoint now would have been game over. How bad is this going to get, sort of thing? Because we were in such bad form.
40 minutes in, basically.
Yeah.
And we're 3-0 down to the team that's flying.
We've been shown a lack of fight in a lot of recent games recently, especially away from home, and I think I must have thought, God, how bad is this going to get? I mean, harsh on Glengana there. Maybe there's an argument he could have put that behind for a corner instead of just pounding it out to the right, but yeah, it obviously didn't have his spatial awareness of where the player on the right-hand side was, I suppose, but maybe that's the biggest argument. But another absolutely brilliant hit from a player full of confidence, obviously. Come on, Town. That's what I keep wanting to say.
Going to a fullback's lunge in it forward percentage ball again. And that's one of the things that criticised, was one of the big criticisms. That bit of play there symbolises Peter's play, wasn't it? Fullback's not looking, playing the percentage ball and not working.
Get him turned. Especially if you're not 3-0 down against a team that have basically battered you for the last 10 minutes. It's looking pretty rough here. And I would have definitely thought game over. But as I said, that next two games were basically the end of Peters after this. And as I say, he handed his resignation in. But I was reading some articles recently, Ollie, and he actually regretted handing his notice in. Did you know that?
Did he?
Yeah, he did an article saying he regretted it, and he thinks that he shouldn't have done it. He should have seen the season out and then saw out when after that, because he said we were in no danger of getting relegated. He doesn't believe we would have actually done as bad as what happened the rest of that season, and we'll come to that in a second. So, yeah, maybe there is an argument that actually Peters should have stayed, but I do remember there being a clamour at that Barnet game. People went mad at that Barnet game. I remember I was with a friend of mine called Gareth Hopkins and a few other lads from the away supporters, and everyone was chanting Jake King is still available and doing all these like ironic chants, and it felt a little bit like, yeah, this could be the end here. And when they got their fourth, and I think he brought James Meredith on right near the end of that Barnet game, and he looked so unfit, he didn't know what was going on. It just felt like he'd run out of ideas, Ollie, if that makes sense, and that him going was just an inevitability, really. So it was a real shame how it ended, but the form at the end of the Gary Peters reign was 2 wins in 12 or something like that, and that's just, no manager's going to survive that, are they?
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think it says a lot about the man that he resigned obviously after that game.
Very true.
And it says a lot about him as a man, that he was willing to kind of make the decision himself.
And as I say, that final run was 6 points from 12 matches, so 6 points from 36, Ollie. So yeah, take you from the edge of the playoffs to just hovering above the relegation zone. So it was a disastrous run, unfortunately. And the players were culpable. We're talking about how good Mark Pugh was, and we're talking about a lot of these players in glowing terms. But at this moment in time, they were really letting themselves down. There was only really players like Ben Hurd, who I used to think kind of came through a lot of this unscathed, because he never stopped running. Same with Mark Tierney. They were probably two of the highlights in this season. But there were players like Mark Pugh, as I said, and Hibbert that just were so half flash in the pan during games, really, or had games where they just didn't perform. Even Ben Davis was below his best sort of form that he played for us. So we can watch them and hope they come back into this game and talk about them in glowing terms. But they played a part in getting Gary Peters sacked for sure. It wasn't just a tactical thing.
Yeah, it was. But then I guess one of the things I think, and that's why one of my points I made earlier about that talent management kind of role, is he had a good team of technical players here.
Yep.
That was one of the frustrations the fans had. But having those kind of players playing long ball football seems a bit odd, and it just makes you wonder. Obviously, in a kind of alternative reality, if you put someone, a good manager in managing this side, just let's play games. Let's take Paul Hurst and put him managing this side, whether you would have played a bit differently.
Great goal.
Good
goal!
Yeah. Just before half time.
We're back. We needed that, didn't we?
3-1, 43 minutes just before half time. Good time to score. Good corner, good header.
Big Kelvin. Big Kelvin showed what he used to do when he played up front, and got a good head to it. So yeah, showed the strikers how it's done really, and yeah, it was useful for that, wasn't he? Because he obviously moulded into a centre back, but provided us with a really good option when we were attacking corners. He did score quite a few from corners, didn't he? So yeah, good header, and just enough to change the morale, the aspect of the game going into half time. That's huge for a manager, isn't it, Ollie, to have that little turnaround and something just to get into the players to give them that confidence to go back out for another 45.
Good time to score. Gives you a bit of hope as a fan before half time that something magic could happen.
Yeah, defo.
Again, another long ball. Frustrating.
Yeah, there's been times when they have, when we were talking about them playing some of the better football they played in this half, it was when they tried to get it down and play it through McIntyre and Asa Hall, but in reality, good save again. God, they're pretty good going forward, aren't they? Flipping out, that's that Lloyd Dyer again. I was just saying that when they did try to get it in midfield and play it around a little bit, that was when they look a better team, but I agree with you, they've gone really direct now, and Asa Hall and Kevin McIntyre haven't really had that many passes, have they? And normally your two central midfielders would probably be the players that spend the most time on the ball. I suspect in this game they probably had the least amount of ball compared to everybody else, haven't they?
Most definitely. Are we going to survive to half time? Oh, that's a bit low. He could have volleyed that. Yeah,
I don't know what he was thinking there. A bit odd, that one. So yeah, 3-1 at half time. I couldn't have been too disappointed about that. Also, we were talking about Rob Bickerton before. Another one of the reasons Peters cited when he handed his notice in was Rob Bickerton wanting to be more involved in football matters. And again, you talked about him having a bit of the credibility to resign rather than be sacked, and shows the man he is. But I don't think a man like Gary Peters would have had anyone trying to interfere with any football business with him, because he would have wanted to control absolutely everything, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would, and he wouldn't take someone with no background football.
Absolutely not.
Giving him football advice.
Actually, well, he'd been at Macclesfield, hadn't he, doing a similar role.
But he wasn't. He didn't play in the World Cup or manage a football team before. No, it's interesting. I think, and one of the other things I was reading in the programme that Peters had to say really while we're covering off the Peters stuff, that was harsh, was that he was saying, he was glad the transfer window had just closed and he's got his squad in now, and talked about the players he brought in to recruit. But he interestingly talked about how he hated the loan system, and how some teams, and I think he was maybe pointing this towards MK Dons because it was the programme notes for this, because I looked and they had quite a few players on loan. He talked about he hated the loan system and how he didn't want to have too many loans in a team, and he wanted to build something for the long term, and that was what Peters was always about. He didn't want the quick fix, and in some respects, maybe that was the change in the guard really in football, that you needed to rely on those talented loan players from higher up the pyramid about now, Ollie, and obviously going forward since then, and maybe that's another wet place he got left behind really, because the loan market can be a useful thing, can't it, for that short-term fix for a football club. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that.
Do you? I'm not sure.
Close again. Not a great performance from Shrewsbury Town here. I have to say, first half has not been great.
No. Get in, get Peters on him, and see what happens really, and see what happens second half.
Plenty of fight in the team. You can't say that the players weren't trying. Just wasn't really working.
No. They're definitely second best in this game in terms of man for man and 11 versus 11, but that fight will take you a long way in a match, and I think as we go on we're going to see
not against the league leaders though.
Well, we'll see as this game goes on, won't we, Ollie? Obviously there was enough fight to produce a certain result in this game, so that's what it is. But as I say,
skills.
That was a great turn by Pugh.
Yeah, and that's what Pugh could do. That's why I always liked him, and technically he always had something, and that's why for me playing long ball football with players like another team was an error.
But he didn't do it enough, did he, for us? As I say, we've discussed how even when he left, no one was that bothered about it.
Playing the channels again.
Yeah, and Hibbert's not done enough for running those channels for me, Ollie, as the big man trying to get on stuff.
Constable hasn't been in the game either.
He's been anonymous first half, Constable, hasn't he? I don't know what role he's obviously trying to be the little man off the big man, isn't he? But it hasn't worked at all. But we're just trying to. I mean, that's a terrible throw. There's no one anywhere near it. Almost a handball. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, they've battered us. I would bet the defence would have been a bit of miffed to have let 3 in, because a few of them were long range strikes. But then at the same time, they'd also conceded a lot of other chances that MK Dons didn't take. So it's probably a bit of a half and half, really, isn't it? I suppose. But I don't know. 3-1 probably felt about a fair result, Ollie. I don't think I would have argued if it had been 3-0 at half time.
No, half time I agree with that.
So I think that getting in 3-1 was probably a shade ahead of where we might have actually been on the balance of play. But yeah, there we go. We were playing a good team, so it was going to be tough.
Getting close to 49 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know the clocks. I'm not in charge of the clocks, Ollie. It's fine. It's a whole different thing.
The time at Shrewsbury Town Towers is slightly different for the rest of us.
It's an interesting thing. You know, obviously we talk about how good this MK Dons team was, but 4 of their players got in the team of the year. So the right back Swales, Lewington left back, and then Keith Andrews and Lloyd Dyer all got in the team of the year. So even though Mark Wright ended up top goal scorer and was their best player, he didn't even get in team of the year. He must have been miffed about that. But yeah, to get 4 players in a team of the year shows you we're clearly by far the best team in the league.
4 minutes of extra time, and it's boots at half time.
Oh dear.
So we're back. Good half time, Glenn. Hopefully you enjoyed a nice. I probably might have enjoyed a nice tuna sandwich in these days,
mate. Bring back Jenny's Catering. It's the ultimate era, isn't it? The first 2 seasons at the New Meadow.
Because you could actually have a proper sandwich after the game.
Oh, God.
And I bet I would have had one of those sandwiches after the game, after I played football.
Yeah.
Probably a nice grab bag of salt and vinegar crisps.
Mate, thinking back now, right, I'm watching this game back, seeing Shrewsbury concede 2 hasn't annoyed me as much as thinking, why can we not have chicken and stuff in baguettes at the New Meadow anymore? It'll never leave me, Ollie. It'll never leave me. Like,
we both like
there was an interim era where we had the Wright sausage rolls, which I was alright with. They were pretty good, and I have to say now the food's gone up because we got the catering van.
Is that a penalty?
Terrible
dive? Do you think that's a pen in your?
No.
Yeah, not a penalty for me.
Yeah. So the food's got better from some of the dark years.
And we've had a substitute.
You what, sorry?
We've had a substitute.
Yeah, we did have a substitution. Ben Davis has gone off.
Yeah.
He got a calf injury in this game and was out for about 3 or 4 games after this. But yeah, he's gone off and Chris Humphries has come on. I have to say, Ollie, we forgot to mention it. It happened in the first half on 38 minutes. So we just totally missed it. I think it might have happened off camera when...
Just chatting.
Yeah, I think it happened off camera when one of the players was down injured or the referee was doing something. But yeah, Chris Humphries has been on. There he is. You can see him on the wing now. So... yeah, another player I rated and think he did alright for us, and he went on to do alright in Scotland, didn't he, Chris Humphries?
Another good recruitment again.
Yeah,
backs up that argument that we were saying earlier about his talent spotting.
Another player that went on to play Premiership football at this time in Scotland as well.
Elbows from Lewington, always had an edge, didn't he?
He was horrible, wasn't he?
He's always been a bit of a let's not swear on the Shrewsbury Town official. If it was a podcast, we'd probably share our real opinion. Maybe we'll save that for another day.
Yes, I think we definitely would have sworn about him. But yeah, he's always been a horrible thorn in our side, and always. And there's been times we've wound the Town fans up, Ollie, as well. He's deliberately been winding us up. So you don't forget, Ollie. Never forgive.
And you do wonder why he didn't go to another team. I guess maybe he's quite happy where he is.
I think after the takeover, MK Dons have probably been the best players in the bottom 2 divisions.
Probably good pay.
For quite a long time.
Yeah.
So why not, I suppose? And he's never done badly for them. They've obviously been up and down and had a trip to the Championship.
And you had quite a few managers.
Yeah. Did they get up to the Championship?
It always tells you a lot, doesn't it? They played in the Championship, didn't they? So it must have been. He must have had quite a few managers. It always tells you a lot if you've got a player that still plays when you get new managers. Every manager didn't decide to get a new left back. I actually always surprised when I've seen him play that why he didn't maybe play midfield. I thought he was always quite a good footballer.
He was neat and tidy, wasn't he? Yeah, but I don't think he probably possessed the physical attributes to bomb on as much as you might have needed in that role. He maybe could have played a sit-in central midfielder. I think he might have played that against us once. I think he has played occasionally like defensive central midfield. So it's certainly a role he could do. He's good enough, but. No, not someone I fondly remember, and every time we play him, he just seems to wind everybody up, doesn't he? And he's always done alright against us. You know what I mean? Like clearly a good player, so it's no good. Another early chance for MK Dons there. Nice bit of play.
So while we've got this little lull, so let's do one of the other player profiles.
Go on.
So Colin Murdoch. What do you know about Colin Murdoch? Do you know much about him? So
he's Irish.
Started born in Northern Ireland. Yeah, came through the Man United youth system. Started his career at Preston in 1997, where he played 180 games, and then he played for Hibs, for Crewe. I love that the player can play for Preston, go to Scotland Premier League, and then go and play for Crewe, and then play for Rotherham, and then played 49 games for Shrewsbury. But do you know what he's done since retiring, Glenn?
No idea. He's someone that's completely fallen off my radar.
So, interestingly, he trained as a sports lawyer.
Oh, right. Interesting.
So first of all, he trained as a sports lawyer, and he ended up being on the FA, like judicial panels and things like that. And then he set up his own sports management agency company.
Right.
and he is an agent, and his team and his company are agents for Scott McTominay, Johnny Evans, Sean Goss, and Roshan Williams.
Oh, all the young sort of Man United players coming through then.
Man United players,
he's obviously got an in there, hasn't he? All right. Well, knock him up.
Yeah.
We could probably do with maybe, I don't know, Johnny Evans for next season. He's slowly going down. Oh, he still plays for Leicester, doesn't he? Might be a couple of years till we get him, but yeah, keep him on record. That's interesting. Didn't know that.
Yeah. A little bit of digging.
Good knowledge.
Funny what Wikipedia can tell you.
Well, nothing about this referee.
No, I'll tell a lie. Wikipedia was incorrect, actually. Wikipedia said that he was a sports lawyer, and then when I searched his name because I was intrigued, I saw he's got his own website and his own professional agency, so he's obviously doing well for himself.
Fair play. Good luck to him, I say. I mean, he's probably not doing much at the moment. It's going to be interesting, Ollie. We talk about agents and football and transfers and stuff, but one of the interesting things to shake out of what we're currently in at the moment, the old COVID lockdown, is what the heck's going to happen with transfers, and will there be, a big drawing back of spending money, and will the transfer market in the lower leagues kind of disappear a little bit? It's going to be an interesting thing to see how that shakes out, isn't it?
Yeah, no, well, I think our level of transfer fees have effectively been abolished for a long time.
Well, you don't announce them anymore, do you? But yeah, it's
No, but you know what I mean. I don't think anyone will be, unless you've got teams like Shrewsbury who are being well run, taking advantage of signing players from other teams. But yeah.
We're not going to be spending, we're not going to be breaking our transfer record in the next few years. That's for sure. I'll be flipping heck. And
you'd hope.
But I don't think we'll.
You'd hope not, and you'd hope that we'd be able to sign a few good talents as well. And it's a really interesting time. Talking of Shrewsbury, and now it gives Ricketts an interesting opportunity. Let's assume that we are going to play next season. Yeah. Let's assume that whenever in some kind of style, some kind of context. It's a really good opportunity now for Sam Ricketts to put his new team together. And I'll be dying to know what kind of style and formation he's going to play. But yeah, interesting opportunity.
No Shrewsbury Town manager has ever had longer to prepare for a season than Sam Ricketts has. Do you know what I mean? If you don't get it right after this break and the amount of research.
Well, they are very difficult.
They are. I know what you mean, but
he's got plenty of time to have a clear philosophy.
If you can't, if you buy someone who turns out to be a dud, you have plenty of time to try and avoid that. But the risk of it is still there, I suppose. Good. Yeah, I think every Town fan would wish him the best in the transfer market over the summer, and hopefully it comes together. And we'll obviously lose some players, won't we? But like this season we're watching now, it's the nature of football. It's transitional. No one stays that long anymore, apart from Dean Lewington. So I'd like to see some of our players be tied down to longer contracts. I liked the days of players like Kelvin Langmead we're watching now who stayed for.
Yeah, and you can see why Gary Peters didn't like loan players, especially in these days. You could do month-long loans, which for me is just ridiculous. For me, it was too much of a cop-out for the big teams. Yeah, you go away for a month, stop whinging at us, and then you can go to a club, and then we lose him for like 3 games.
Or the GT era, where he just decided on a Monday morning he wanted a new player, and Tuesday morning he wanted a new player, and Wednesday afternoon he wanted a new player. And he just get someone in on loan for a month, and one of them would play, one of them would have 2 games. And
Town are all over the shop here, aren't they?
Well,
defensive structure.
I think it has, but I think they slightly stepped out a little bit. I was noticing in that 5 minutes, the first sort of 5-6 minutes we've been watching, they've definitely stepped it up a little bit. They're a bit quicker to the ball. They're trying to get at MK Dons a bit more. I did notice that a little bit. So I did feel like they came out with a bit more intensity.
Definitely some kind of riot act.
Yeah, maybe that, but just a bit more intensity, and they've definitely had more of the ball.
Oh, skills from Pugh.
Yeah,
that was brilliant again. Embarrassed midfielder.
I love strike. I've always loved wingers like that, haven't I? I look at my Stepovers, my Grandisons, my Sam Astons, and the players I've really loved. I never took to Mark Pugh. I don't know what it is.
That was a good attack. That was
better.
Good bit of pass and move, bit of possession, and a decent ball into the box.
I think with 2 direct wingers on both sides now. Oh, you have to excuse our commentary being interrupted by Sky News there. I think that in terms of having 2 direct wingers on either side now with Humphreys and Pugh, that would probably make us slightly more difficult to play against than maybe Ben Davies out there. Ben Davies was a quality player and he was our captain, but I think Humphreys would be more direct, and when you're 3-1 down at home, you probably want the more direct player, don't you? So that injury might have actually helped a little bit. Bit harsh on Ben Davies though. Is that Keith Andrews?
But I know what you mean. He's an attack and runner. Yeah, it is.
He was good. He did well, didn't he? So he moved with Ince to Blackburn, Ollie, in the summer. So they both went to Blackburn, and so he went on to have a really good career for them, didn't he? So played quite a lot of football in the Premiership. So clearly talented players.
Front 2. Good link-up play and good movement from this MK Don team's well drilled. A lot of good. It didn't quite work there, but they've tried to do the right stuff. A lot of fouls though. They're not shy to put their foot in.
No, physical as well. Yeah, I think that's fair. To be honest with you, that was definitely a foul though on Tierney. And it's Tierney on that side, isn't it? So it's Johnny Trousers coming to take the goal kick again. But so 54 in. We've kept him out for another 10 minutes and probably been a little bit better. I think we would have been thinking another goal here, and you never know what can happen. That's the nature of football, isn't it? I suppose as a fan, but they've not looked like conceding so far in this half, though. Let's be fair, for all our sort of slightly improved play, and they've still looked dangerous as well. Lloyd Dyer was good. I mean, he's been good in this game. This is him on the ball now. Tricky. Oh, got away with that.
Awkward from Mark Tierney there.
Oh man.
There's Barry Peters in his suit.
In a suit, yeah. I don't remember Peters in a suit. I always remember him as a tracksuit manager, especially during the sort of playoff run season. He was always in a tracksuit, wasn't he? So I don't know. Wonder if he was feeling the pressure and he
serious man for a serious game.
Serious man for a serious season. Maybe that was the case. I've not seen what Paul Ince is wearing. I haven't seen him out of his changing rooms yet, but
just chilled.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's have a look. But there we go. So
he's bossing the game, isn't he, Andrews?
Yeah.
If he's not number 4, we're in trouble because you can't quite read his name. But number 4 is bossing the game.
It was him and who's in the central midfielder? A guy, Alan Navarro, who played a bit of. I think he was a Liverpool lad and played a fair bit for different teams.
Just popping it around, aren't they?
Yeah,
really good side.
They've regained their composure after a slightly fast start to this half. I would agree with you there, but we'll need to get back into it at some point.
They're just finding each other. It's too easy for them.
The wingers are very wide as well. Like Mark Wright is hugging the touchline like he used to do for us as well, isn't he? He's always out there as an option, and it's dragging. But
there's a lot of fluid movement from their team. You've got, there you go. The left back came in from inside there.
Oh dear! Oh, you can probably almost see our head there. That's down where we sit, looking at that bit there, isn't it? But there we go. So. I don't know. Gary Peters' era coming to an end, Ollie. We were going to talk about this at the end, but we can kind of slot it in here before anything exciting happens because the end is quite exciting. But what's your overall feelings then on the total time Gary Peters was at the football club? You've talked about what you think he could have done and gone on, but do you remember him more fondly for what he did than the way this season ended?
Yeah, I think he kind of. I think with hindsight, it's easy, isn't it? It's much easier, I think, to draw a conclusion. At the time, he probably would have been just frustrated with the football.
Yeah.
But I think he was a bit of a. He enabled us to transition from a team that was really struggling in League Two to being a more established, high-level team and set us up for League One. I think the players he left, as you said, the infrastructure he helped introduce. He's built a foundation for other managers to come after him and do well. I think for me, style of football. Leaves a bit of bad aftertaste, but in terms of what he's done, really a good time manager. We've certainly had worse managers.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Ollie. I think. I mean, I've got the fanzines from the time there, and I've been reading the programmes and stuff, and I think that the kind of general gist there is that things aren't always right, and we're not winning every week, and things might not be what you'd want to see at Shrewsbury Town, and understanding the adjustment as well for the new meadow, but there was still like a kind of a lot of credit in the bank for what he'd done to help us, sort of stabilise in the Football League after we came out of the conference and Jimmy Quinn had gone and what way it was heading there really. And it's an interesting article in the program in one of the fanzines by Gareth Hopkins, who has been on the podcast before, Ollie. But he was talking about how disappointed he was, compared to seeing recent games, and he talks about this game particularly, and not this game, sorry, some of the more recent games. But talks about how that kind of credit, like I just talked about there being in the bank, has got to give managers time. And I think maybe it's a thing that sometimes we forget as football fans, and I think I'm probably as guilty of that as anyone, is that there is good and bad in every manager, and if you can build up some credit in the bank, you'll get more time. We can talk about more recent managers who built up credit and maybe managers that didn't build up any credit and just went straight away. So the narrative of a manager over a longer period of time is definitely something that needs to be looked at when you're thinking about just the result at the end of the day. And I think I'm thinking the more this lockdown goes on, the more sanguine I'm going to be about football when I go back, Ollie. I don't know if you think more people are going to be like that because they've missed it so much, but I don't know. Am I becoming?
Let me write that down.
Am I becoming soft?
So it's currently Thursday the 28th of May, and Glyn has said that he's been more calm, and you're going to be a little bit more philosophical about managers.
Yeah.
Let's see.
See if that lasts for
when
Christmas.
you've driven to Blackpool on a
Well,
Tuesday night.
There is that.
And yeah, the manager's brought on a striker in extra time. We've lost the game 1-0 with 10 men, up against 10 men.
We'll see, Ollie. We'll see.
It's a game of passion. It's a nice ambition to have, Glenn.
For those listening,
but I won't hold it against you.
Revisit us on the podcast in 6 months' time and see if that's kept up. We could do a Ben Davies here, couldn't we, on this free kick? He would have been ideal for it, but back post.
Close.
Not bad effort that for a big centre back. Striker come centre back. Yeah, we could have done with Ben Davies on that. I think it was Pugh that hit it in the end, but chance at least.
Do you think the referee should have sent off that player just before that?
No.
There was a charge challenge. I thought, good refereeing again.
Yeah.
Referee's going to get good ratings at this point.
Yeah, it used to be that. Do you remember that Rate the Referee website?
Mark Wright talking to the ref there. Bit cheeky.
Get out of his ear, ref. Constable has done absolutely nothing in this game compared to, I know what happens as this game goes on, but he's done absolutely nothing. He's offside. He's been woeful. And, that's the thing about Constable is he scored a couple of goals here and there, but in general, I didn't ever rate him. And he, again, another player that went on...
No, he didn't do very well for us.
No, he didn't. But he went on to do all right for a lot of
other
clubs. But he did do
well at... he did well for Oxford. So he played 204 games for Oxford. And this might surprise you. He was 1 goal shy of equalling their record goals.
Oh, wow.
Goal scorer, which is quite an interesting stat. 107 is quite low compared to Shrewsbury Town. There's Livington doing what you expect him to do.
Winding up all the Town fans right in front of the West Stand as well. Yeah, but was a soft lad sometimes though. He was massive and he almost seemed a bit of a moaner. Love it. Oh, he's all over Mark Wright now. I wonder if they wouldn't have played together, would they? Hibbert would have gone by then. Yeah. That was good. The town fans enjoyed us winning that free kick. There was a big cheer there, so there's definitely
town fans love
more effort. Here we go. Humphreys.
Good ball.
That was a decent knock, that.
Oh, clear. Putting pressure on here.
Definitely better. You can hear the crowd ratcheting up. It's definitely building something, and it's definitely been a slightly more improved performance second half. That goal definitely changed the tone of the game. Can you imagine what this game would have been like if it was 3-0 after half time? How flat we would have been. I think it would have been probably 4 or 5.
Well, the town fans are still with the team.
Yeah. That
was quite good.
There was a lot of goodwill for a few of these players still. That's for sure. Murdoch, no good. They've gone scrappy though. They have periods of really good play, and then they have periods where they get just as scrappy as us. So it makes the game a bit of a disjointed affair, doesn't it? Glenn's got it. There's not many MK fans.
No. What, in general?
No, in that stand it's practically empty, isn't it? You could get away with lockdown with that many fans in the stand. I think it'd probably be okay. So, their defence have done all right in general, haven't they? Like you've said, we played a lot of direct stuff, but they've pretty much headed most of it away. And I don't know, could have got more out of Hibbert. Could have got more out of Constable in this game. Yeah. I think the midfielders.
Just talking of going back to James Constable.
Yes,
he's currently a player assistant manager.
Still playing.
Banbury United.
Wow.
Yeah.
He must be old now.
He was 24. So
he's 40 something now.
Played.
Cool. Yeah. Fair play to him. I'm almost 40 and I can't run, so let alone play football. So he's kept himself in good shape. Fair play to him. But he's
Well, he wouldn't have been. He'd be 36 or something.
Would he? This is 2000. What year is this again? Or have I gone too far back in my mind?
2008.
2008, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, 12 years. So fair enough. He's still young enough to keep playing. But other than a couple of goals here and there.
But who is playing? This is going to be a surprise for you. Mm-hmm. Glenn Garner's still playing.
No, he was 32 in this game.
Yeah, he's 45. 45 or something. And he's playing in non-league, in the second tier of the pyramid in the Welsh football.
Ah, you can get away with that in Wales.
in the Welsh. Yeah, but he's still playing though.
Yeah,
and that, it's funny. So he started out in the Welsh league, where he made a big £5,000 move to Bury.
Bury would love £5,000 now, Ollie, wouldn't they? Jesus Christ, they could do with 500 quid, let alone 5,000. But he did okay for us, Glengarden. It wasn't anything special. His era was particular.
Only played 45
exactly.
games.
He did a season, didn't he? And that was it. He moved on then. But he never. Well, I say that it was this season, and I can remember a few errors now. The more I think about it, but he wasn't one of the worst goalkeepers we ever had. But he wasn't one of the best either, was he? He was kind of a bit Marmite, really. It was interesting. We did a bunch of my mates have a Zoom call on Saturdays, like a lot of people at the moment. Oh, what a ball that was!
Cross. Good ball for Humphreys. He's come on and had made an impact, hasn't he?
Yeah. Hibbert's eyes must have opened up then. He was going right into his head.
But not just his pace. It hasn't been his pace. It's been his distribution, and his final ball has been really good.
He could cross. He could definitely cross. Yeah. So I was talking about quick quizzes then and goalkeepers because someone did the quiz last week, and there's obviously a Shrewsbury Town element to it because it's a bunch of Shrewsbury Town fans on the call, and it was basically the name of a game and who was in goal in that game, and it was so funny because he picked all like the keepers you probably would remember. So Chris Wheel, Chris Neal, Joe Hart, Paul Edwards. And I think Jason Lutweiler and a couple of other ones. But there's so many goalkeepers that played maybe one season and you just kind of forget about them, or played maybe half a season on loan, like Jonathan Mitchell. You might, of recent times, who's going to really remember Jonathan Mitchell in 5 or 6 years' time? It's funny how many goalkeepers we've had in the time period I've been watching that some of them you struggle to remember. Oh, he's in. That looked like a foul.
Oh, good time. It did look like a foul, but I think the way the player reacted, and the opposition fans haven't moaned.
No.
We'll take that.
Got away with that, Tierney. That's fine.
Shrewsbury Town central midfield has been pretty non-existent throughout this whole game.
And they're better than that.
I don't really remember them making a pass.
No, they've just not. It's gone over them all the time. That's why.
Yeah.
Sore necks looking up at it all the time. They're
going straight, but it's working though. To be fair, in this game, getting forward quick has given us opportunities. Not loads, but If there's ever a game where you're not going to criticise Peters for not playing passing football, would be this one.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
That's a soft foul.
Yeah, Humphreys is definitely making a big difference. Done really well so far. And it's interesting because Humphreys only came into the season. He only really got involved in the team towards the end of that last season, didn't he? Under where we beat them in the playoffs. So the previous season to this, and obviously he kind of established himself a bit more this season and maybe had one of his better ones. So he hadn't really been breaking into the team for too long, but I think maybe this season and the season after was probably the best we saw of Chris Humphreys. And I remember after the playoff final, leaving Wembley the year before this, saying to Radio Shropshire, I'm devastated, I'm really upset, but we've got a hell of a player in Chris Humphreys. You wait till next season, he's going to tear it up. And he was alright, but obviously with what happened this season, he wasn't brilliant, and he definitely didn't tear it up at any point. So yeah, he definitely had more to offer, I suppose.
I tell you what would be fun, Glenn. If you maybe did this as just like a one-off type thing, not a podcast, but just like a little article or a little post, like players that have only played one game for Shrewsbury, like the worst 11
There's
ever.
a lot.
I bet you could put some amazing names in that team.
I bet you could.
Less than 10 games or something like that for Shrewsbury.
If you keep talking, I'll throw some names at you in 2 seconds. Go on. Yeah, it's interesting because the Football Club are giving me all their stats now.
Yeah, I'll let you come back. You come back to that. Let's carry on. But
yeah,
it's gone scrappy again. MK Dons are really struggling to keep the ball.
Yep, they are.
And also the goalkeeper has definitely been time wasting. He's been getting a little bit of abuse from the Shrewsbury Town fans.
Yeah, I think that's fine, and I think in their, I think they would try to time waste, wouldn't they, in this circumstance, because they're trying to keep ahead.
Not?
But
3-1. Yeah, exactly. Tuesday night game. You've got a game coming up on the weekend.
Yeah,
it'd be foolish to try and go all guns blazing.
Yeah, I'll give you a few of those one game players, Ollie. James Sharp, remember him?
Nope.
Left back, played one game, got injured, got sent back. Glyn Thompson, the goalkeeper. This is since we came back to the league. He might have actually played more than one, thinking about it. Connor Randall, right back for Liverpool, played one game, got injured. So a few of these are loan players we had who got injured and got sent back straight away. So yeah, there we go. There's only a few though. There's a lot of players that we signed and never got any games on my list as well. So that's quite an interesting one. But yeah, we'll have to see. If I can put that quiz together. It's interesting when you look at players though, when you think of players you remember, and they didn't even play that many games. So like,
you could do it as a word search, Glenn, or something.
Yeah. So like you talked about it when we did the last one of these, Gylfi Sigurdsson. He only ever played 6 games for us, but people remember him quite well.
Yeah.
People remember Nathaniel Mendes Lang being on the bike, and we've talked about him loads of times on the podcast. Again, he only ever played 6 games.
He was 2 players in one. He was.
But again, he only ever played 6 games. Andrew Gray, that went on to play in the Premiership, only played 5. So there's so many players, Ollie. We could do this all day. But
how many games did Tom Bradshaw play for us?
Keep doing the commentary. I'll tell you in a minute.
Yeah, no
quite
worries.
a few of them.
So it's definitely getting colder. You can definitely see more breaths now.
Yeah.
But with 67 minutes in, you'd be pretty despondent as a Town fan, and you probably wouldn't begrudge people if they did leave. I wouldn't have left. Never leave. Well, I've only left one or 2 games in my whole life early, but. Well, it seems a bit foggy as well. Cold fog, maybe. Yeah,
it's typical rural Shrewsbury fog, isn't it? We always get that when it goes cold. I don't want to bring back my Liverpool story for people who've never heard this, listen to the podcast, but one of our friends who we both know, someone I know really well, when we played Liverpool this season, obviously there was a certain own goal by Mr. Donald Love, And he decided that was the point at which he was fed up and he was going to go home because he couldn't see us getting back into the Liverpool game. And he missed our miraculous comeback to 2-2 against Liverpool. So if you ever wanted a warning to never leave a game early, then that's got to be the ultimate warning, hasn't it? Because in all the years I've known Town fans and all the Town fans I've talked to and all the funny stories about people leaving, that for me, that's got to be the worst, Ollie.
Yeah, that's the best one. The one game, I can't remember if I've left... I think I've left one game... in a couple of the last few years early. I can't remember. One we've been doing the podcast, I think I left early, or maybe not. I'm not sure. But the one that comes in my memory, I definitely left early, was Chesterfield away.
Yeah.
Was it like Boxing Day or Christmas or something like that?
Yeah.
I remember having a pint of Golden Delicious from Burton Bridge Brewery, and that was the highlight of the day because the football was atrocious.
The one we lost 7-1. Here we go.
Oh, good bit of wing play there. Cheeky goalkeeper.
Chris Humphries, class for that goal.
We've got to get booked for that. Oh, come on, ref. I guess he didn't technically kick the ball away. That was a good goal, that was.
Really good.
Good cross, good drag back.
Yeah.
Pep would have liked that.
Yeah.
Got in the right area and dragged it back.
Considering Constable's hardly been in the game, he just found the right bit of space, the right spot, and was there just to pop it home, wasn't he? And having done nothing in the game, he's got Town back in it. But yeah, like all the credit for that goal goes to Chris Humphries.
Yeah, really good goal. Good cross.
Oh, the crack.
You can even hear the... yeah, it's crackling on the sound. It's that loud.
Our sound will be of a much higher quality on this commentary, Ollie, don't worry. But yeah, it's good to hear the Town fans, and yeah, definitely back in it now. Plenty of time to go as well. 20 minutes left, probably 23, 24 with injury time. Feeling like you're in the ascendancy. You suspect that away from home a team would normally crumble. I bet that MK Dons. Again, I can't remember this game clearly from back in the day, but I suspect they didn't crumble. I suspect they probably still played quite well. We'll see how it goes.
It's funny, I can remember the emotions of this game. I can clearly remember me sitting there, being thoroughly fed up after running down the road. And I remember the feeling of leaving this game now and what I did. But I'll save that for later.
Yeah, go on. You can have that in your outro. We might need to do it before the outro because after this goal it'll probably just cut off. After the full-time whistle it'll probably just cut off. So yeah, rock it up about 85 minutes. But just move on to Tom Bradshaw before we do, because you did ask a question. How many games do you think Tom Bradshaw played for us?
Not many, maybe 20 or something. 30.
Tom Bradshaw played 98 games for us, Ollie.
98?
Yep, 46 starts.
How many goals did he score?
52 substitute appearances and 17 goals. He's one of our best strikers in the last 20 years, mate, in terms of goals per game. So
I remember Matt Ashton, the photographer, was always saying that Shrewsbury Town fans were wrong about him. He's going to have a decent career playing the Championship.
He's never played lower than us, has he, since then? So playing in the Championship for Millwall now, isn't he? And moved to them, didn't he, recently? So that was fine. I should just cover that sub off, Ollie. I'll have to just check the old agenda here because I've lost my step. But that was our second sub, which was Guy Maggio.
Good defender.
Guy Maggio came on for Dave Hibbert. Guy Maggio, Ollie. Thoughts?
Now, there's a player with a cloud around him.
Yes. Well, I don't know how much we can say about that, Ollie.
I don't think we can say very much, to be honest.
I think you could say that he had a cloud around him.
Google it.
Yeah.
Let's say he left. He left.
He definitely left, that's for sure. And we could say that he had a cloud over him because of the way that he played for Shrewsbury Football Club, because let's be honest, he couldn't hit a cow's arse with a banjo. And I know we're on the club's account, and this isn't the football club speaking, this is just two fans that are trying to help out and their view of a player. But he had a little bit of pace, he had a little bit of trickery, but he wasn't brilliant. And I'd like to watch him if he gets on the board in this game to see what he's quite like, because you pen that person as that thing you always thought they were.
He reminds me of that player that played in that Bury game that we were talking about. We did the first Bury game we did before the playoff game.
Yes.
We were talking about where he came off the bench. I forgot his name, and I've forgotten his name again now. So
still doesn't help. You've watched an entire game back with him, and you've still totally forgotten. You mean? I've forgotten his name, but I know exactly what you mean now. The lad that came on.
You wouldn't get this from Stu Dunn.
Oh, pathetic. We didn't do our research on previous games, either.
Come on, Lewington. He's time wasting here.
Well, I would do now. 7-1. 72 minutes gone, isn't there? So yeah, still plenty of time for Town to get in. But yeah, I want to see what Maggio was like, because the good thing, and the thing I think about watching these games back, that has been, and I don't know how many people have been watching all these games back. I've been looking at the sort of stats, and sometimes there's a couple of hundred people watching these games. They go out, and generally over the course of a week they can maybe have 400, 500, 600 people looking at them. So I think that's fairly decent, considering not everybody's got YouTube or not everybody wants to watch our games back. But one thing that stood, what covering that is by Ben Hurd, absolutely brilliant. Saw the danger.
We had a good defence here, gotta say.
But yeah, for me, I was just saying about how sometimes watching these games back has been making me re-evaluate how I viewed players or what I thought about players. I think obviously we've done it and we've talked about Sean McAllister in a couple of these recently, and he seemed way better than I remember. And I don't think Mark Pugh has really turned my view around on him, to be honest with you.
I think it's you often get, and I think it's easily done. It's the classic kind of football fan thing. You get not warped up, but wrapped up sometimes in the emotions of the time. How well a player's performing and stuff. You take a player from the Paul Hurst period. I found it probably quite easy to say, they're all good, all had a great season. But then players move on and stuff, and sometimes you remember.
Got my subtitles on, Ollie. There we go. That was magic.
You did, mate.
I didn't
want to point it out. But...
Oh, it was them. Sorry, I completely. I was looking at the wrong side. They brought on Jude Sterling for Nathan Dyer. So sorry about that, Ollie. I preempted the Guy Madrid stuff. So he's on now.
See what you can do. See if you can.
I like how you let my inaccuracy slide there, Ollie. Again, not something that Stu Dunn would allow. So mark you down for that. But who remembers? You remember Jude Sterling, Ollie? Come on, no. MK Dons playoff game.
No.
What was Jude Sterling well known for?
No idea.
You've clearly not watched that game back this week, have you? Jude Sterling was the guy with the long throw in the MK Don playoff games, and he just had that huge throw, and was just bombing it into us all the time. It was really difficult to deal with. Although, to be fair, the town defenders over those two games did really well against MK Dons. But I can't remember. You don't remember Jude Sterling and his long throw? It was kind of a big thing, I think, when we played them. So he's on now. So any throws they get, he'll be being wheeled onto them. You watch. Disappointed. Do you remember that, Ollie? Very disappointed.
Apologies. Mark Tierney there, played it back. Such a good player for us, and it's a shame his career ended a bit prematurely.
His knee went, didn't it?
When he was 28.
Yeah.
When he was 28. I can't remember his knee or his ankle, but he had 4 operations, didn't work. And he ended at the top, pretty much. Played 8 games for Bolton after he left Norwich. But he was playing in the Premier League as a left back.
Yeah.
And then, got injured around Christmas time. And his career never really kind of recovered after that. Shane retired at 29, started at Oldham, and then followed Paul Lambert for Colchester to Norwich.
Yeah.
Good player, and again for me one of the standout players. And you talk about players that played for Premier League. Obviously, 2 players in this team went to play in the Premier League.
Yeah, for sure. We said that at the start, didn't we? It's interesting. I was just watching that and I thought Town had another chance then. I was interested to see if we have any big chances before we know what happens. Chris Humphries was the natural header of the ball. Chris Humphries, was he? To be fair, he was flipping tiny. So
again, Asa Hall hasn't had much to do in this game.
No, but you can see by the way we're playing, we're pushing men up now because when they break, it's normally 1 on 2 every time, and I suppose that's fair enough. We've fought our way back in the game. Why not have a go at getting a third or letting a fourth?
Funny, the defenders never thought for a second there to try and collect the ball off the goalkeeper.
No, that was not the done thing.
Straightforward.
It was a bit of a weird one knocking it along to Maggio, though. He wasn't very tall either, to be fair. I don't think he's touched the ball yet, to be honest. So I wanted to see what he was like, but he's got to touch the ball first. So, dear. My memory might be playing tricks on me for all I know. He
Mark Wright on the ball.
Sets it nice goal. There's Mark Wright, causing some trouble again. Very neat on the ball again, though. Neat and tidy. Very good. Oh, class.
That was cheeky.
Oh, ooh, good save, that.
That move, that did.
Yeah. He's going the wrong way. Yikes. 77, 13 to go. MK Dons will be looking for a goal to finish it off now, won't they? And we'll go home in their packed out stand behind the goal. There's not that many of them, is there? But we'll see what this corner does, and then hopefully Town can counter attack. See where they go from there. I was going to ask you a quick question actually, because I said this is 3 games. Let's watch the corner first. Headed over, Swales.
Poor corner, poor header.
Yeah, straight over, goal kick. I don't read the agenda, Ollie, because I did put it in there, but do you remember who took over as caretaker manager between Peters and Simpson?
Peters and Simpson? It wasn't Jackson, was it?
No.
Was that a different period?
Steve McMahon. Yeah, Steve McMahon. I think he was part of the backroom team, wasn't he, under Peters? And obviously, when Peters went, I think some of the backroom staff didn't leave quite straight away because Simpson wanted to assess who was there already, I think. And so he took over for 2 games. I think he might have stayed under Peters for a while because then he brought his own men in, didn't he? But maybe made it to the end of the season. I'm not too sure. But so he had 2 games and they were both unfortunately draws, so it didn't really help us. And I talked about us saying, we were never going to get relegated that season, and we might even have done better with Gary Peters, but it's interesting to remember how bad the season went after Peters left, because say John McMahon took over, he drew 2 games, and then Simpson came in and won 1 game in 9, Ollie, which was worse, really, in some respects. It's worse than what we had before.
Been saying on the podcast.
I remember a lot of people. Yeah, I remember a lot of people sort of saying, "I understand he's taken over what we had, and it's difficult to get it going again." But at one point,
but with the team he had, you'd expect more.
Yeah,
and from the players as well.
Yeah, and not many.
Maybe that was what was wrong with the team. Maybe there was something a little bit wrong with the mentality of the squad.
I think losing a manager that had been there a long time probably unsettled them as well a little bit. I know they were
quite a young team.
Yeah.
To be fair, it was a young team. If you look at the ages of the players that are playing, you've got 32, 23, 23, 33, 23, 27, 22, 31, 21, 22, and 24. So it's quite they're not kids, but quite a young team in retrospect. Obviously, you've got a couple of players on the bench like Cookie and people like that around the squad, but
I think that was one of the things that Peters was lamenting in some of the interviews I read, is that his experienced players tended to be out-injured a little bit more often than he would have wanted, and they didn't quite have those experienced heads, particularly away from home, where you probably need those experienced heads to see them through. Obviously, you're making Ben Davies your captain, but he's young, and he's as I said, didn't seem like that leader at first to everybody, and I think that maybe played a part in a lot of the things that went on that season in terms of that rigidness and that solidity that Peters' teams had all the way up to this season. It only really drifted away this season, so it's a different watch this team than it is to watching the MK Dons playoff game. Ollie, I know we obviously were raw in and got back in that game, and we got battered a lot by MK Dons in that game as well, but we were much sturdier and steelier, I think that's a fair description. So a lot had changed between the end of last season and this season, that's for sure.
Another bit of a time wasting sub from Ince. There he is. His tracksuit. So
this is Jordan Hadfield coming on for Jermal Johnson. That's their last. Oh no, it's not their last sub. That's their second sub. So they got one more, which they use a bit later on. But Johnson did alright in his career. I think he went to play for Birmingham and played a bit of Championship football. So solid enough player. But that end of the season, I just, I don't remember this season fondly, but I always remember hating the end of the season more than anything else, because that run at the end of the year did get us into relegation trouble almost, Ollie. We at one point dropped to 6 points off relegation, which is, no small thing. And that was, I'm trying to read now up here. So we dropped 6 points off the relegation places. And we eventually got safe with just 3 games to play, Ollie. So, the relegation battle did kind of happen, and it did kind of go on to the end of the season. And obviously we got away with it. How has he missed that?
Unbelievable miss.
Constable. He's
Unbelievable miss from Constable.
I can't believe that.
Saved his blushes from a goalkeeper
bad.
wasting his time now. That is a terrible miss. Offside or not, that was a poor miss.
God, I hope he was offside. We couldn't see the flag, but he was on the goal line. He put it over the bar. My God. Put that in the all-time worst misses as well. Oh dear.
It's up there with that miss in the Dagenham and Redbridge game.
Yes. Oh yeah. The Grant Holt one.
Now. No, not the Grant Holt one. It was the other striker.
Yes, Luke Chadwick.
I can't think the life of me. Yeah, Chadwick. That was one of the worst misses I've ever seen from a Shrewsbury player.
That and Curtis Main, they're the two.
First half. Guy Maggio. He didn't do anything. I think he just let the ball go on.
Yeah, I still don't think he's touched it. I'm pretty sure.
No, I don't think he has touched it.
He's been
good
on
strike from
10
Constable
minutes.
There.
Yeah, good.
And again, for me, a player that always showed a bit of potential, just never quite did it for us.
No, this is in the era where we couldn't find strikers to score any goals other than Grant Holt, isn't it?
No.
We went through a series of people that just couldn't.
And that's why we probably spent all that money.
Yeah, exactly. This is one season before that. But the time from coming back into the Football League to, basically Grant Holt joining the football club, all our strikers were pretty garbage, weren't they, to be honest with you, in terms of their output.
James Collins and Holt, the only ones that really stand out.
Yeah, but that's after this, isn't it, still? This is
that's what I mean, yeah.
No good.
82 minutes. What's going to happen next?
The only good thing about the rest of the season...
that was...
world class.
No.
Did alright the starting bit. Give him some credit there.
Nice.
It was his shooting that was the worst. I remember him having chances in games, and he always spurned them. He was never ever going to be prolific enough to play for us.
He always got caught out, didn't he?
He always got caught out, you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Always got caught.
Oh dear. Maybe I'll set the next goal up. We'll see how it goes. But Jude's doing it. Fell over. He fell over. I was going to look how many games Guy Maggio played for us. I bet it's not many. I bet it's less than 10. Was he on loan? I can't remember. I'm not sure if he ever scored for us either. We'll have to see. Town fans are in good voice, Ollie. So get behind him. Try and keep us going. It's good to hear. Still got a chance, haven't we? Still got a chance.
Another poor ball. Down the channels, playing percentages again.
Guy Maggio played 15 games and scored 3 goals. Oh, there we go. What the hell do I know? I don't remember him. I remember him missing a lot of chances though, and he wasn't on loan. We brought him in as a permanent signing. So there you go. That's another. This is why I like watching these games back and doing a bit of research, because I would have been convinced that Guy Maggio was a loan player that we had, but yeah, clearly not. He was one of Peter's Christmas transfer window signings, wasn't he? And decided that Guy Maggio was a better option than Michael Symes, which seems a little bit odd looking back, Ollie.
Yeah, it does. You've got to speculate when you want the players from lower level, and any transfer's a gamble. But yeah, it's Symes again. Maybe just had enough of him. That's a foul again.
Honestly, it's about the first. We've been watching 84 minutes of this game, and it's about the first time I've noticed Hasselhall. And I feel like it's a bit of a shame, because Hasselhall was a decent enough player, and this game has not shown it at all, has it? He's not been involved in anything, and the game has totally bypassed him. So
it's not even a bad game. You pronounce his name wrong.
Oh, wait,
poor Asa.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why I say Asa. I've always said it.
Don't matter.
I can't pronounce any names.
But yeah.
Good knock.
Good cross.
Oh. It's there. It's definitely there.
Yeah.
God, we're up now, aren't we? There's only one back.
People are still there. They haven't left.
Nope.
Stewards are coming out.
I bet my mate that left the Liverpool game probably gone.
What's that cheer for?
Just to get going again, sort of thing. Come on, turn the ball around and get going. Chris Humphrey's been really good. Yeah, it's interesting because we normally do a man of the match, don't we? And if we're doing it for this, we'll have to do the man of the match before the end of the game, because it'll probably cut off straight after that. So I'll ask you man of the match on...
You're not going to go for Guy Maggio?
Certainly not going to go for Guy Maggio, but I'll ask you for man of the match on 87. I'll have a think now for your man of the match. In fact, yeah, it's 86. Who was your man of the match, Ollie, watching this game back so far?
I think from the actual real man of the match, I'd probably say Mark Wright.
Yes.
But from a Shrews Town perspective, booking for diving. From a Shrews Town perspective, I'd probably go for Chris Humphreys.
Yeah.
Coming on, having a big impact on the game.
I think that's a really good shout. I don't think you give it the front two.
Would you agree with Mark Wright probably for overall man of the match?
Him,
or maybe Keith Andrews.
Andrews.
Obviously got booked there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think Keith Andrews has been an absolute class.
Goalkeeper's made quite a few saves for them, though.
Yeah,
to be fair,
been okay. I think Chris Humphreys has got a really good shout for man of the match, and I think that you could probably say Kelvin Langmead had a decent game as well. Obviously scored one. I know we let a few goals in, but hard to pinpoint Langmead on any of those goals. And obviously, has tried to keep them out and has made some good covering tackles and stuff. So for me, it'd be a bit between the two of them. I don't think anyone else would really stand out. Oh, just wide.
So close that was.
Interestingly, I'm going to find a programme, Ollie, whilst this game peters off to what's about to happen.
Ball boy's a little bit too keen for my liking.
Peters would have been screaming, slow down. I'm going to have a look who got man of the match in the programme for the next game, see if it comes up. Because it normally was in the programme. So MK Dons was 12th of February. Next game was Hereford United at home. So I'll have a look in this programme, Ollie, to see who actually got man of the match. Because it's always interesting finding out, isn't it, to see whether how you've watched a game back was kind of how it was viewed, whatever it was back in the day. So let me have a quick look. Man of the match. MK Dons game. Guess who was man of the match at the MK Dons game? It's quite unbelievable.
I've got no idea, mate. You'll have to tell me.
James Constable. He got the sponsors man of the match award. I guess we're about to find out why that is in a minute, Ollie. But to me, on the strength of actual
sponsors man of the match, I would not. I wouldn't say too much about sponsors.
It's the second one in a row we've watched of these where it's clearly been someone else who's been the best player on the pitch.
Yeah. I do sometimes find it bemusing when you get home and you see who the player is being nominated. The sponsors man of the match, and you're like, you what? Did you actually watch the game?
Yeah, I guess this is going to be down to what happens in the next minute or so. But even then, on the strength,
that
on the strength
one good
of that,
effort, which was good save.
You what, sorry?
Good save. He had that one good effort so far,
Yeah.
but yeah, he hasn't really been that effective. He hasn't really brought anyone in. He hasn't really won too many headers.
I suspect that's the only game he got out of the match. To be honest.
Has Murdoch gone up front there?
Well, yeah, we've done the old GP for everybody forward, and they are coming out. It's a bit weird that we threw Murdoch forward and not Langmead. I suppose they wanted the pace still at the back.
Yeah.
Oh, got a score.
Oh! Through his legs.
Ben Hurd's done exceptionally well to just get a toe on that, hasn't
Yeah,
he?
he's doing well to track back there. Really good defending there from the back three.
That wins us,
And Glengana lumps it forward. Throw it out.
This is
a different approach to normal.
Yeah, this is
He's still full of running, Pugh. Good ball.
Asa Hall.
I feel sorry for Asa Hall.
Oh, Asa Hall.
Yeah.
Oh, God's sake. They'll be left to the football club if this
It's
keeps
just
up.
done it. It's just done. You are that. How is how you play.
I know. I always have.
It's like Udo. Udo. It took me ages to get his name right. Kept saying to me, like driving away and saying to my wife, "You got it wrong again." we always use Stuart Dunn, don't we?
Yeah.
As the official name pronouncer.
The worst
adjudicator.
thing for us is if we do a podcast and a new player has started with a tricky name and we've
we
been at the game and
we
we've
haven't
not
heard
heard
Stuart
it.
Dunn yet.
Like, what did Danny say? Oh my God, I don't know. Oh man.
Writing it out in the podcast so we don't say in the agenda so we don't say it wrong.
And just for everyone listening, we're going to either cut this down or trim it up a little bit and put this out as a podcast as well as the commentary track as well. So you can listen to it in either format you want really. But we've decided to kind of knock the Time Machine podcast on ahead just for a little bit. Maybe doing them every 2 weeks now because it's been a bit relentless and work's busy. But I'll shut up now, Ollie, because I think something's going to happen. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes now in this last minute. So we're into 90 minutes, Ollie. It's all or nothing. Colin Murdoch's banged up front. Guy Maggio almost touched the ball again. No, Colin's back there now. Oh dear. What is that? What a waste.
That's a poor pass.
What a waste. You'd be looking at the aisles a bit now, shiftily, wouldn't you? So
Ince wants to make a sub.
A little bit of time wasting sub. Yeah, is it going to happen? I know what this sub is.
Murdoch's back there now.
When it happens, it's going to be Sam Baldock for Joe Gallen. Bring another striker on.
Good play from Pugh. Nice ball into the box.
It's all over the place.
And it's
in! Oh,
Town fans going mad.
that's great. Who was involved in the knockdown? 16. Oh, it was Asa Hall that was involved in it. Fair play to him.
Yeah, good
Look at those kids in the family stand loving it. Oh, miss it. Is that Mike Pure? Someone ran towards the Sarah stand then to go and give it a fist and pretended to do it and stopped. Oh, good scenes. Oh, I miss it. I miss it, man.
Staying all that. And the reason what I was going to say was, so obviously, as you know, I ran to the game, played football, ran to the ground, all that kind of stuff. And after this game, it was my first appearance on 606 when Claridge used to do the Tuesday night ones. And they got me on there straight away because obviously it was a big comeback. And it was one of those nights when I think it was, I'm not sure even if the Championship was playing. So lower league, League 1 and 2 was like their main focus. So yeah, got on there talking to Claridge.
Yeah, there you go. You were saying, I bet you were really chuffed, Ollie. Fight back like this. And it was,
First foray into a bit of talking to the media.
Everybody loves a last minute goal, don't they? If it's for a point or it's for a winner. Obviously it's better if it's for a winner, but
highlighted this season for me is the Coventry at home.
Yeah.
Win in extra time.
Yes, definitely. It just makes everything a little bit more special.
We think we can win this, don't we?
We're going for it.
Maggio, he's just off the pace, isn't he? He's on if they were talking, he's talking another language.
Might as well have left Ibbott on to just clatter into people. At least he did that. But yes, so this is one of the reasons why we've been sort of helping the club pick the list of these games, and it seems like a random one, a 3-3, but it's been quite an enjoyable watch. This, to be fair,
it was a good game. This was in the context of where it was as well. And again, that's so important, isn't it? The context, the emotion of how you were going into this game, and especially being behind against one of the best teams, the best team in the league, to get this result. It was a big result.
Yeah. No, I agree, and that's why we've been helping the club.
Performance more than point, obviously.
Because it's difficult for them because the two media lads have obviously been here 3-4 years maybe, and they know what's gone on the last 3 or 4 years. They've been involved, but obviously our football club history in terms of televised stuff goes back to sort of the late 80s, and there are games there that fans of all generations should be able to see and should be able to watch. So we've still got lots more to put out there, and I think it's not been it's not been getting hundreds of thousands of people watching, but I think what's been being put up has been well received, and that catalogue is there now for the future. So I think we're quite lucky that the football club have done something like this during lockdown. And
definitely done a lot more than other clubs.
Oh, way more. I was talking to the Rotherham guy that I talked to, who does their fanzine, and Rotherham have done nothing for their fans. They haven't put any extra content out. their podcast done some interviews and stuff, but it's a fan-based podcast. So I think it's good that we've done it as a football club, and they should all be commended. And we're glad to help as much as we can. I do prefer listening to Stu Dunn's commentary or Sky commentary.
So who's coming on now, Glenn?
David Hunt is coming on for Mark Pugh, who's run his legs off, I think. So big high five from the.
Oh, good shifting.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, he probably would have been in my top 3 or 4, maybe. Actually, the more I've watched this game as it's gone on, but. Here we go. Look, Murdoch's up there. We're going for our own long throw here. What the heck? Oh my god! Whoever launched it miles.
Woo!
Karate kick.
That was a ninja attack.
Clearly a foul.
Banged it down.
Clearly that was.
Yeah, it was a ninja kick.
Oh man! Everyone's standing up in the family stand. Can you see?
Yeah.
Everyone's standing up everywhere. But look at it. Well, a lot of people are.
It's end to end now.
I wonder how much injury time there was here. Because our goal was on 90, so...
Go on, Maggio. What's he going to do?
Oh, dear. Lewington, you bugger.
Bless him.
Did well there, didn't he? God, the town fans are so loud now in my earphones. They really got into it. I mean, and again, in historical context, we've had a half chance there to go 4-3. And that's happened, very rarely. It's happened twice at the Meadow, hasn't it? Which is the new Meadow, which is weird. But before that, it didn't happen for like 30 years or something like that. So, but
Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Special, isn't it, for comeback?
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, so it's a good point, that, Ollie. I remember both the Charlton games were Tuesday night games, weren't they? So, maybe it's also teams from the south.
Long trip.
Yeah. Shoot!
We're giving this a good go.
Oh, that's it.
To be fair to him, he's played against 2 really good central fielders there.
He's really not the best.
McIntyre hasn't really fared that much better.
No, in the Bury playoff game and some other games we've watched, he's really stood out, hasn't he? But this has definitely been the quietest game I've seen McIntyre have.
How many goals do you think McIntyre scored for Shrewsbury?
More quiz. 12.
5.
I haven't cheated and looked. No, I didn't know. I thought I might have scored 1. Right?
You scored 5.
Oh well. There we go. This might be about it, Ollie, I reckon.
Not a bad point.
Yeah, we'd take that in the context. I think Peters would have been happy. Little to know how the next 2 games were going to go disastrously wrong, and he would be resigned within 2 weeks. Oh, look at the players!
So it's funny from this. And it's funny from this team. There's quite a lot of people that have gone into football management and coaching and stuff. Another one we didn't mention, just quickly, that Ben Hurd is currently a manager of Hertford Town in the 7th, 8th pyramid. So. Yeah, good result for Shrewsbury there. Pretty pleased with that.
Oh, we've got an interview with Gary Peters at the end here.
And it's Gary Peters in his suit.
Should we listen to the man?
It was a great comeback, but we didn't want to get where
I don't want to talk over him, but the guy in the background is the guy that left early for the Liverpool game.
Great spirit by the players, and probably the best point we're going to win for a long time.
Before the start of the game, that Milton Keynes nailed on Certainty's promotion, and they were in control early on, were they? What a side!
Oh, they're the best side in the division by a mile. In the first half, we couldn't get near them, but we had to show some character, and it definitely showed character.
Kelvin Langmead's goal just before half-time gave you the hope you needed, really?
Yeah, I think he launched himself at the ball, and it was a superb goal from Kelv. He just took the armband off of Ben as well, so it was inspiring, and it gave us that little bit of lift that we needed before half-time, so that when I went in, there was a ray of hope for the lads, and the half-time talk could be positive, and we could get them coming out like that.
What did you say to them at half-time then?
Oh, we just had to step up and be counted, didn't we? It was times...
Listen, let's listen to the rest of this player in a minute, but he's a scary bloke, Ollie, wasn't he?
We needed players to go out
he's quite serious.
with spirit and heart and belief, and I think that we've learnt a lot from that game, because I think we showed them too much respect in the first place. I think we should have gone at it a lot more like we did in the second half, and that might not have occurred.
Transformation though, wasn't it, in the second half? It was all blue shirts.
Yeah, it's shit or bust, really, isn't it? I'm right.
I remember this now.
The 2 goals that came about, and John Constable, James.
We were trying not to swear, Ollie.
So proud of him, and he must be so proud of his blue shirt.
Well, I don't think he's made 2 games yet, and he's got 3 goals, hasn't he? He's had a couple of halves and a bit there, and we won't get too excited. We need that to keep going. He's a goal scorer. We know he's a goal scorer. We know guys are goal scorers.
Do we?
And that's why we brought him in, to help Ibbo because he hasn't had anyone with him all season, and now we've got two of them fighting for his place. He might have to miss out himself. Well, he will on Saturday because he's suspended. That's why Guy sat out the first bit, because him and James Constable are going to need to play on Saturday.
You came from 3-0 down to 3-3. Does this give you the hope that really you can make this push for the playoffs?
Oof, we're still talking about it.
I don't want to get carried away with all them sort of things. I want the lads to realise how good they can be. We've done a similar thing a couple of weeks ago against Bradford in the second half. Unfortunately, we didn't close the back door when we was attacking against Bradford, and they sneaked in on us. But, you know, over the last 5 or 6 games, I think the performances have been better. You know, you wouldn't say first half today was, but they can show what they can do, and we can't have too much respect for teams, and we showed too much respect in the first half. Instead of taking the game to them, get the ball down and pass it too easily, and they looked a quality outfit, and we needed to ruffle their feathers a bit second half.
You certainly did. They weren't very happy, were they?
No, they don't deserve to be happy to let a 3-0 lead slip away like that. It doesn't happen often, and like I say, that point was probably better than any win we've had all season.
That was good stuff, Ollie. I enjoyed listening to Peters there. So yeah, we'll just say thanks for listening, and we'll let Gary carry us out, won't we, Ollie?
Guys. Yeah, I hope we didn't bore you too much, and please listen to the podcast one time. But it'd be nice when we get back to some real football again.
Watch us training, and you see the